I'm an Elden Ring fanatic, and I'm also an anthropologist. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the religion and philosophy of Elden Ring from an anthropological perspective. Religion has long been the subject of intense study in anthropology. There are many books on the subjects. Before it became uncool, anthropologists in the U.S. conducted fieldwork among Native American Indian tribes, documenting their culture, language, religious beliefs, and lore. Although the religion of Elden Ring is a fictional religion, we can study it using the same methods employed in traditional anthropological inquiry. In this video, we won't dwell too much on the lore, which is more fluid, loosey-goosey, and is chiefly concerned with storytelling and myths. Instead, we want to focus on religion, which is more rigid and concerned primarily with dogma and especially law and orthodoxy. It can be argued that all religions are in some ways fictional. They often contain fantastical elements like dragons and magic. But all religions are firmly grounded in the real world. And the developers of Elden Ring have succeeded in crafting a very believable and familiar religion on which to ground the story of this great game. So, what is the religion and philosophy of Elden Ring? There's very little information that you're told directly. Instead, you pick up information in little bits and pieces from certain NPCs or from reading the descriptions of weapons or spells that you collect along your journey. As the main character in the game, unless you pay very close attention and do some homework, the religion of the world may be somewhat obscure. But you don't have to know any of the lore to enjoy playing the game. It is clear, however, that the religion and philosophy of the world is obscure and left almost intentionally fractured by the developers. This leaves the subject wide open to speculation and interpretation. This is evidenced by the many YouTube videos out there on Elden Ring lore. The developers borrowed from many religious sources and philosophical traditions to weave this epic tale. But what is evident is that they've successfully blended many Christian motifs and Western philosophical ideas to invent their own compelling theological narrative of their world. But Elden Ring is not a Christian game, and Christianity is not the religion of the lands between. Let's be clear. However, many important Christian ideas are instantly identifiable. There is unmistakable Christian imagery and symbolism throughout the game. For starters, you, the player, are addressed by everyone you meet as tarnished.
Oh, yes. Tarnished, are we?
To tarnish is to dull or destroy the luster of something. It refers to something that's been soiled or stained. This is an obvious reference to the dogma of original sin, first laid out by St. Augustine and the Catholic Church. It comes from the story of the fall of man in the Garden of Eden. Sin fell upon all men, and the curse was extended to all of creation. We are tarnished. The world is tarnished. Paul describes all of nature as crying out to be liberated from its bondage to decay as a result of original sin. And it doesn't take long for us to see that the lands between are tarnished. There are signs of death, decay, and corruption everywhere. Strange beasts roam the world. The world is broken. It must be repaired, restarted, reset. There aren't any safe corners. The environment is bleak and disordered. And everywhere you go, something is trying to kill you, like in the real world. Now, in order to unlock the mysteries of the religion in the game, we're going to need the help of a few key NPCs. There's Brother Corin, Enya, the finger reader, Muriel, the turtle pastor of the Church of Vows, and a few others. But Corin is an obvious source. He's clearly fashioned after the medieval Catholic monk. And he's clearly led by blind faith. Muriel wears an unmistakable pontiff's crown, which is in itself an ancient symbol of religious authority. Enya is modeled after the Greek muses and prophetesses. She's also a soothsayer. They will all be our main religious authorities in the game, along with one other whom we'll discuss later in the game. And so we begin our inquiry by speaking with Brother Corin, who identifies as a man of the cloth.
Oh, I see you've just arrived. Welcome to the Round Table Hold. I'm Corin, a man of the cloth. I teach incantations, the strength granted us by the two fingers, and explore the secrets of the Golden Order, so that one day, if a tarnished of the Round Table Hold should become Elden Lord, I might counsel them, ensuring order regains its proper form, righting rule over men. By the way, do you still see it? The guidance of grace. You do? Wonderful news. Most tarnished are blind to it these days. You are something of a rare breed. Well, what do you say? Care to learn an incantation of the two fingers?
He sells us prayers or incantations, which are basically the same thing. They're magic spells or utterances. We learn a few key religious details from Corin. The first of which is the two fingers. What are the two fingers? We find the two fingers at the round table. It looks just like its name implies, only its flesh is rotted and torn.
Are you that new tarnished? You've done well. I am Enya, the finger reader. I interpret the words of the fingers, envoys to the greater will.
We learn that the two fingers are envoys or messengers to something called the Greater Will. We'll come back to the Greater Will in a bit. Next, we learn about the Elden Lord. We are reminded in the game that our goal is to become the new Elden Lord. The current Elden Lord is described as a product of this Greater Will. It's referred to as a beast. Sent by the Greater Will to establish the Elden Ring in the lands between. We must defeat this beast in order to become the Elden Lord. It's a pretty big fella. Next, we explore the Golden Order.
Great Elden Ring, root of the Golden Order, anchor of all lands, giver of grace, wellspring of all joy.
We learn from Enya that the Elden Ring is the root of the Golden Order. It is the giver of grace, the source of stability and joy, and an anchor that holds the world together. The Golden Order is thus the basis, the governing principle, if you will, the religion and philosophy in the lands between. Order is not just fundamental in religion. Without order, there can be no science. Like religion, science seeks to impose order on the world by uncovering its mysteries and understanding its laws. God is usually depicted as the creator, the architect, or engineer, measuring and ordering the world in his own image. The Elden Ring held creation in order until
it was shattered. The tragic corruption of the Order has taken its toll. Across the realm, life lies in ruin, fallen to pieces. Foul curses and misery spread, unabating.
sometime in the primordial past, a cosmic event referred to as the Shattering occurred. This is the event that unleashed rot, poison, madness, and corruption into the lands between. Evidence of this cosmic disorder is embodied in everything.
But the Greater Will has not abandoned the realm, nor the life that inhabits it. So it is that the Tarnished are guided by grace, called to act. Brave Tarnished, your great rune is a handsome shard of the Elden Ring. Seek another of its kind to become Elden Lord and restore the Golden Order.
Let the words of the fingers guide you.
So now that we have learned a few of the fundamentals of the religion, let's return to this greater will. The greater will is referred to in the game as a mysterious entity or force. It has vassals, of which we learn the two fingers and the Elden Beast are but two. The greater will seems central to the entire world of Elden Ring. Yet at no point is the greater will ever referred to as a god or demigod. The greater will is an entity that shares similarities with the will put forth by the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer in his magnus opus, The World as Will and Representation. It's a good book. Now for Schopenhauer, will is also a mysterious force that governs the world. Every will is a reflection of this one will. And Schopenhauer's will is not a god or supreme being either. It's that constant striving, willing, desire that's present in all living things. As such, it is also the source of all suffering in the world. Buddhism shares a similar view of ego and desire as the source of all our suffering. The greater will, we are told, created special beings called Empyreans, who will become the gods that populate this world. We encounter many statues and images of these gods, especially in church ruins. But the gods became proud, ambitious, vain.
In the embrace of restless flame.
They were fickle. And this fickleness is what ultimately led to the events of the Shattering.
You're tarnished, aren't you? I welcome you to the Church of Vows. I am Miriel, steward of this sacred chamber. The Shattering has caused us, all of us, to lose sight of something very dear.
So we now have a fairly conventional story of some kind of fall, offered as an explanation of the current state of the world. And speaking of falls, serpents as agents of chaos are everywhere in Elden Ring, as they are in many other religious traditions around the world. For example, there's Rykard, whose title is Lord of Blasphemy. a clear reference to the serpent in the garden. After we take him down, we learn he's also a demigod, like Lucifer was a fallen angel. As he reminds us that a serpent never dies. There's also Mesmer the Impaler. And so the link between serpents and Satan, fire and hell is unmistakable. There are also themes of sacrifice and death. And resurrection. There's a strong belief in this religion in rebirth, renewal, and being born again.
Thou, is it thy wish to be born anew? To become a sweeting, reborn of my beloved egg?
Even the item needed for rebirth resembles a human embryo. Is there an afterlife in the religion of Elden Ring? Well, we can't say for certain. There's no real talk of an afterlife. However, one of the bosses, just before we kill him, has one of the most beautiful lines in the whole game that hints at a possible hereafter.
The Lord of all that is golden, and one day we'll return together to our home, bathed in rays of gold.
The promise of a new life under the golden rays of the sun in some benevolent hereafter is a common belief in most religions. If anything, it's a beautiful sentiment of hope. So let's review what we know so far about the religion of the game. We know that it's not concerned so much with themes of good versus evil, but rather with order versus disorder. We learn of the existence of the greater will, which is not a god, but rather a mysterious force in the universe and the giver of all order. This greater will sent the Elden Beast to establish the Elden Ring in the lands between. The Elden Ring is the source of the Golden Order, which is the guiding principle and religion in the world. The greater will created divine beings to act in the world. Of these, Queen Marika is the divine sovereign. But the gods became vain, proud, and fickle, which led to a conflict that resulted in an event called the Shattering. Shards of the shattered Elden Ring are held by various bosses, and it is the Tarnish's goal to obtain these shards, defeat the Elden Beast, and restore order to the world. We, as the players, become none other than the hero with 1,000 faces that Joseph Campbell described in his seminal work. We are acting out a story that's been told 1,000 times before. But how? How are we to restore order to the lands between? Well, the game offers up 6 possible endings which the player can activate depending on his or her actions in the game. Each ending attempts to resolve the existential problems of the world in different ways. For our purposes, we want to focus on the Age of Order ending. Many players believe this is the best ending, but I just think it's the best ending from which to delve deeper into the religion and philosophy of the game. In this ending, stability is restored to the world, and we see an end to the fickle gods that unleashed misery, decay, and death to the world. And how are we to restore order?
Tarnished, show no mercy. Have their heads. Take all they have left.
Blood will have to flow. Violence is essential to establish any order. You'll have to hack and stab your way through this world to remove the obstacles in your way. Some enemies you can avoid or run past, like this thing here. But there is no negotiation with or avoidance of the main bosses. The message is clear. World order can only be established through violence. And when you stop and think about it, that's how the real world works. This is the legacy that history teaches us. There are also many ritualistic elements in the game.
Well, I see. A remembrance of gold has found its way into your possession. Demigods and even the greater of the champions are hewn by the Earth Tree upon their end into remembrances. They are valuable indeed. These remembrances yet house the power of their former masters. And should you wish to wield that same power, do not recoil from my offer. And you, Tarnished, you are here to take, are you not?
That one can consume the very souls of your enemy is an ancient idea. Here it takes on a form of symbolic cannibalism, which I suppose is preferable to actual cannibalism. Now that we have a better sense of what's going on, let's progress the hero's story and see if we can uncover more details about the religion of the lands between. We do this by speaking first with Brother Court, whose questline facilitates our analysis.
I'm thinking of leaving the Round Table Hold. Do you know of the noble Gold Mask? Though he was but a tarnished, living outside the lands between, he was a great scholar who foresaw the coming guidance of grace. And now, I hear he has come to the lands between alone to contemplate the Golden Order. I wish nothing more than to seek his instruction, and perhaps even help him in his research.
He tells us that he's embarking on a pilgrimage to find the noble Gold Mask. Gold Mask is another religious authority in the game. We know only that he is a tarnished, but an outsider with mysterious origins. We are also informed that he foretold of the coming of the guidance of grace. Grace is an important concept in the game.
Are you familiar with grace? The golden light that gives life to you, Tarnished. You may also behold its golden rays, pointing in a particular direction at times. That is the guidance of grace, a path that a Tarnished must travel. Indeed. Grace's guidance holds the answers. It will lead you, Tarnished, to the path you are meant to follow, even if it leads you to your grave.
We find sites of grace throughout the land. They provide rest, safety, and help direct our way. This is reminiscent of God's saving grace in the Bible.
By the way, do you still see it? the guidance of grace. You do? Wonderful news. Most Tarnished are blind to it these days.
There's an NPC in the game, Blackguard, who admits he can't see the guidance of grace at all.
You're tarnished too, ain't you? Can you see it then? The guidance of grace, I mean. I can't see it at all no more. Makes no bloody sense anyway. Why some no-name shithead like me should get called to the lands between. Cruel bloody joke, you ask me. Maybe something went tits-o with it. Maybe it's been broke for a good long time.
One must be humble to even see grace. Without sights of grace, the game would be even more difficult than it already is. The noble gold mask could be mistaken for a Jesus figure, but he's an end times prophet, paving the way, more like St. John the Baptist, who proclaimed the coming grace of God. Gold Mask is also an iteration of the many sun gods that have existed since time began. The sun has been worshipped by many religions in every corner of the world and has been incorporated into the myths, legends, and religions of countless cultures. Which is why the sun can be considered the prototypical god, the god of gods, and for good reason. The sun has also been the object of intense scientific interest. Uncovering its secrets have given us the atomic age of the modern world. We next find Brother Corrin and Goldmask together on a bridge. Brother Corrin has now become an apostle of Goldmask, ready to write his cogitations in the same way Jesus had apostles who would write the Gospels.
We meet yet again. Thanks to you, I have become acquainted with the noble Gold Mask himself, and taken my place by his side, as you can see. Have no fear. I will still teach you incantations as before, though we must do so quietly, such that we not disturb the great Master's cogitation. The Master is always deep in contemplation, while I frantically attempt to record his wisdom, the movement of his finger, and though I am yet to comprehend even the daintiest morsel of his wisdom, I know that this is my life's calling. The Golden Order has bestowed me, talentless as I am, the great duty of documentarian.
Yet the noble Goldmask never speaks throughout the entire game. He just moves his fingers and hands. We find them again at their next location, but there seems to be a problem between the Master and his apostle.
Continue your reflections, your rhythms. I must be the one to record them. What matters this issue of Radagon, really? Why must these qualms come to you now? We were on the very cusp.
The problem appears to center on Radagon. The revelation of his true identity threatens the orthodoxy of the Golden Order and could upend established dogma.
Now the Master is facing quite the puzzle. The Golden Order is founded on the principle that Marika is the one true god. However, the name of Marika's second husband, King Consort Radagon, also appeared. Who exactly was Radagon? The Master is stumped. His finger has remained still ever since Radagon's name was discovered. Curse my mediocre mind. The Master only has me. And here I fail him.
What is Radagon's secret identity? Muriel gives us a clue.
You know, it's said that Lord Radagon harbored a secret. A famed sculptor of the Erdtree capital was once summoned to render Lord Radagon's likeness in giant stature, when he glimpsed the skeleton in Radagon's closet. And as such, it's said the great statue harbors his secret too.
We locate Radagon's statue at a specific place in Lindell, capital city, just as Muriel told. And when we cast a certain incantation, we see the transformation. We know that Radagon is Marika herself. This introduces the duality of God to the Golden Order. It's also a problem the early church had with regard to the Trinity and the divine nature of God. The idea of one God who takes many forms is further an Eastern belief found primarily in Hinduism. We then return to Goldmask with this revelation. He doesn't speak, but instead gives us the symbol of the Golden Order totality. It represents balance and the oneness of all things. Goldmask seems to take the news rather well, although it contravenes established dogma. Brother Corwin, on the other hand,
What on earth did you do to the Master? Well, not that I'm complaining. Master's finger moves again, resuming his cogitation. More than good enough for me. I haven't the words to thank you.
Well, he's completely confused by the revelation and sticks to his blind faith.
It matters very little whether I understand the Master's thoughts or not. I am merely his scribe. It is my sole and unwavering purpose.
At their next location, we can tell that the relationship between Brother Corwin and the noble Goldmask has deteriorated. Corwin seems troubled while Goldmask seems serene in his Golden Order totality pose.
Nice
Corwin
to see you.
appears is having a crisis of
I can't
faith.
believe you've come all this way. I've been gripped by a terrifying thought. The rhythms and calculus of the Master's finger betray a suspicion of the holism of the Golden Order, a conceit, I am afraid, that cannot be overlooked. Oh, but how could this be? I dread to even entertain the possibility, but somehow I cannot cast aside my doubts about the Master. Tell me, have I simply lost my head? Only, if the Master were true to the Golden Order, why would he think to breach this forbidden mount of fire? Oh, Master, put my mind at ease. Dispel these fearsome thoughts. I want to place my trust in you, to be your scribe.
It happens that all Orthodox religious beliefs face such a crisis when new ideas and revelations threaten established doctrine. The same is true in science when new theories overthrow old ones. We finally find Corwin sitting in the ashes of the capital city at the end of his faith, weeping, broken, and disillusioned.
Oh, it's you. I finally come to understand. The Master was nothing more than a madman, enchanted by a vain and ruinous delusion. He rejected the perfection of the Golden Order, seeking to supplant our glorious faith with his own. Could there be a more pitiable comedy? Look at it. The culmination of perfection. Burning before our very eyes.
It all turns to dust in the end. All that remains of Brother Corwin is his beautifully animated soul for us to consume as another remembrance of our journey in the game. As for the noble Goldmask, we find him in a more serene surrounding, striking a very familiar pose in death. But he leaves behind for us, with his self-sacrifice, the one thing we need to restore order. It's aptly named the Mending Rune of Perfect Order. And its description could easily have been lifted right out of the Bible. Pride and folly ruin everything. We get the noble Goldmaster's equipment and take on the mantle of the great prophet. We are now ready to restore order to the world. There's just one order of business left for us to do. We must slay the beast, as the beast in the book of Revelation must ultimately be slain. After we destroy him, we are told we have just slain a god. In the DLC, we slay another god. But this one is both a god and a lord. Finally, the moment arrives for us to usher in the Age of Order. We set into motion the cleansing and redemption of the world. If it were only this easy. And we learn that even a lowly tarnished like ourselves can change the world.
The fallen leaves tell a story of how a tarnished became Elden Lord. In our home, across the fog, the lands between. Our seed will look back upon us and recall the Age of Order.
While making this video, I was reminded of the quote from The Tempest. "O brave new world that has such people in it." A powerful religious idea across many traditions, particularly in Christianity, holds the notion that we are all somehow tarnished, stained, polluted, and that the world we live in is in dire need of fixing, saving. It's an ancient story that has been told and retold in many countless ways. The religion in Elden Ring, while not exactly Christianity, nonetheless embraces Western religious beliefs of the existence of some divine order in the universe. It's also open to the oneness of God and Eastern idea of the multiplicity of the divine. One God, many forms. The world has always been a dangerous place. And one man's idea of heaven is another man's version of hell. But it seems to me that so long as men model their gods after human fickleness, order is bound to be shattered. Perhaps order itself is an illusion, and if it is, it's a necessary illusion, like religion is a necessary illusion. Our task in life should be to pursue our own imagined perfect order with the guidance of grace leading us forward. Thanks for watching. Let me know your comments below. And I leave you all with Corin's gentle, beautiful blessing.
May the Golden Order shine through you.